What's up, Model Geeks? Hey, it's Brian, and we're doing a final for the 2020 Big Rig Group Build hosted by Mr. Jeff over at Jeff's Garage and Mr. Dylan over at NYS Modeling. So, again, guys, we applaud you for doing yet another Big Rig Group build for this year. I appreciate that greatly, and I am looking forward to next year's because I won't be building this. I'm just kidding. This is the Peterbilt 359 kit by AMT/Ertl. This kit happened to be around about 2001 vintage, so it had a shelf life of roughly 19 years or whatever. And over that time, things happen to parts, or depending on where it's lived its life and everything. One of the clues that we were going to have a little bit of an issue for this particular build was that half the box art was faded, so it had been in the sun somehow. That led to our discovery of the frame being a little bit wonkified. The frame rails were actually kind of like bowing out from each other. So when we got all that glued together and sorted out and everything, we neglected to notice that the frame was doing a little bit of this type of a deal. So we couldn't, when we came time to add the axles on, we couldn't get the wheels to set level, and we were already too far into the pond to turn around and try and swim back out. So we figured we'll just go ahead and finish crossing the pond, and hopefully we survive. So what we ended up doing was adding some shims to the back two axles to make sure that the front wheels sit on the deck just fine, and I think we did all right on that. But what we did not anticipate was the fact that adding the sleeper to the cab was going to cause issues as well. It was almost like the whole cab system sat too low on the frame, so we raised it up with some styrene shims also, and then made sure that was level to the ground, not so much level to the frame. And then that, of course, translated into issues with the hood because the hinges, and not so much the frame issue, but the hinges on this type of thing are just molded pieces of styrene, of course. And one was fine and the other one wasn't fine. So we've been trying to even those guys out, trying to get them to level out and everything. We had to do a lot of compromising in order to do that. We talked to our good friend Gaz Decay, who had offered us some advice on how to deal with everything. And we ended up having to shave off about 1 millimeter on the bottom of the grill surround, and so just so that we could get the hood to open about that far. That's about as far as we can get the hood open. For display purposes, I think that's fine. I think I can live with that completely. There was a chance that the hood wasn't going to open at all, but I'm happy with what we got right now, and we'll just go forward with it. The only tricky thing we did on the truck was we added a little magnet to help with our battery compartment cover. I thought it was kind of funny that they give us some battery detail to put in there and then want us to glue the cover on over the top of it. So I thought, we'll add a battery. We'll add a magnet on there so we can display the battery units if we want to. Maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime we do a truck stop diorama and we need to have a guy working on the battery packs. So, yeah, maybe he'd be like reaching across there with a wrench across a couple of the terminals or something like that, and then do some LED sparking or some jazz. Yeah, we're getting carried away. All right, so we're going to close this up and rotate. Bring us around the front. And then we left a lot of the kit chrome intact this time because I figured repainting all that stuff just wasn't going to be worth the time and effort. So we left a lot of the kit chrome. And it doesn't look bad. There are some nicks and scrapes and stuff because it had been in the box for a while. And we did cover that with some Molotow pen. It's not a perfect match, of course, but it is what it is. We did do some bare metal foiling on our Peterbilt badges. So let's see if we can get a close up on that there. That looks pretty good. I thought that turned out all right. One thing we did have to do, which was kind of a last second type of fix, was that we had neglected to notice that when we were gluing on the air canister here, we had already put in the pipe that goes up into the turbocharger. We put that in place and then glued it through the side of the the engine cowler, and then lined it up with the air cleaner canister, and then glued all that in place. And then what we didn't recognize was the fact that this was sliding down as it was curing, and it put pressure on the intake pipe, which in turn put pressure on our on a join that we had down inside there. So that opened up really badly, and our solution for that was to cut a piece of styrene tube, cut it in a C shape, and then add that on there as sort of like a coupling. And I thought that we put some aluminum tape on there to help out with that a little bit, make it look a little more authentic. I thought that would be a good way to fix that type of issue. It was a great last second type of deal. Final assembly on this guy took about a week because of all the little things that we kept having problems with, because we had to shim all the stuff in the back here. We still didn't get the sleeper cap 100% good, because it does tuck in at the bottom and stick out at the top. It didn't fit inside the cab very far as we had hoped. That was probably a fit and finish thing on my part, not so much the kit type of thing that I could have fixed. And then I just recently figured out that my fuel tank here is actually sitting low in the front, so I might need to pull that off somehow and rejoin that to the frame in a more level fashion so that looks better. But right now all the fuel is running to the front of the tank. We did do decals from a aftermarket pack. It is an AMT parts pack for decals, and it was like the big rig pack. I keep wanting to say big rig group build, but it was the big rig pack, and great decals. They went on no problem at all. We used hot water, of course, rather than just lukewarm water, so we knew that we're getting a good adhesion for everything, and that the decals would lay down real nice. But then again, we're also putting them down over very flat surfaces. There was no curves or anything or compounds we had to worry about or anything. So everything went together just fine, and decal wise, and we really appreciate that. But there's something on here that I did not know was a thing, because funnily enough, the decals from the AMT pack, everything's dated from 1971 license plate wise, but this guy here says number 2 diesel. I didn't know there was different types of diesel fuel back in the day, so I'll have to do some research on that and find out what that's about. But yeah, I thought, okay, we'll put those on there. That'll be cool. In the back, let's go around to the back here. Let's walk around to the back. In the back, we have our 5th wheel, of course, and on this guy we had to glue it in place. Other kits we built, they could snap in place and it would be able to pivot, but this guy we had to glue it in place because it kept falling off. And we just went ahead and used our tulip fabric paint, the black version, and just went over the top of the whole thing, like he's getting ready to hitch up and take off on his next excursion, his next deliveries or whatever for the Universal Construction Vehicle work sites or whatever. Now, I wanted to do this one as the Universal Construction Vehicle series, because originally when the Lowboy and Bulldozer kit came out, those were a kit unto themselves. Now they're being sold separately, of course. But this was the truck that was supposed to be the hauler for all that stuff. So I wanted to do this one as the technical hauler for that kit. I did do a white Freightliner cab over last year for that, because I hadn't gotten this kit yet. And now we've got 2 big rigs for the Universal Construction Vehicle series. I do not have a trailer for this guy here. I might swap it out with the flatbed for the cab over one that I have, and maybe find a different trailer for him. I'm not sure, but as for right now, we're pretty much done. We did have issues with our smokestacks because they're hitting the fuel tank. So again, another situation of I'll probably have to pull that tank off in order to correct that. But it is what it is, you know. We did have a lot of fun building this kit. It was challenging, and depending on your point of view, challenge can actually end up being fun. All right, y'all, take it easy. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you a little bit later on. Bye now.